Lionel Laurent, EU just doesn't like Facebook's business case. It's not very surprising that Facebook CEO, Mark Zuckerberg's state visit-style trip to Brussels got a pretty chilly reception from EU officials. The Facebook co-founder is pleading for more regulation to solve what he, and his top lobbyist, Nick Clegg, consider to be a failure of public policy. If only governments could agree on how to regulate the internet without curbing free expression, the social network would be only too happy to comply. This analysis is not new, and entirely misdiagnoses the problem. In the Europeans' view, Facebook's business model, which hoovers up billions of users' intimate thoughts and behavior patterns, to better target ads, is the issue. And it's one that the social network would prefer just to tinker with at the margins, given the costs involved. Judging by Facebook's new, 22-page paper on regulating online content, and Mr. Zuckerberg's published speeches, the company views its own misadventures as simply symptoms of a bigger online disease. If regulators could just define harmful or illegal content, set the limits on free speech, quantify targets for the quality control that tech platforms should perform on their networks' content, and do so at a global level, the results would be clear. There's an obvious self-interest on display here. Aside from being short on detail and big on stakeholder dialogue, Facebook's vision would conveniently raise the barriers to entry for smaller rivals in a market that is already dominated by a handful of players, while itself continuing to benefit from the scale effects of keeping WhatsApp and Instagram under one roof. Together, Facebook and Google controlled over half of digital ad revenue in 2018. One-size-fits-all regulation would be ideal for a globe-straddling company that boasts billions of users, an array of interlocking and addictive apps, and which plans to launch its own digital currency to further lock people into its walled garden. There would be less to fear from the idea of data portability. Even if users had the freedom to leave with all of their data and contacts, where else would they go? Facebook might also be only too happy to push quantifiable regulatory targets onto its 30,000 frazzled and overloaded content moderators. No wonder European Commissioner Thierry Breton dismissed Mr. Zuckerberg's ideas as too slow and too low. In terms of accountability, the real blind spot for Mr. Zuckerberg is the Facebook business model, which is precisely what the EU wants the firm to address. Mr. Zuckerberg says he cannot be responsible for 100 billion pieces of content, but that's not really true. It's more that it would be very painful, possibly existential, for the economics of Facebook to hire the necessary moderators and engineers to make it happen. Mr. Zuckerberg's idea that Facebook is somewhere between. For more on this story, visit the news article link.